So, hello everybody. My name is Preeta, and I'm a senior product manager by profession. Um, I really had a lot of interest in sharing my knowledge regarding technical product management. So, basically, product is an idea, and whenever we want to ship a product into the market, there are certain viable features, basic set of features that needs to be available while we are shipping the product into the market. Hence, I thought the first topic that we would be looking at today is a minimal viable product. What is minimum viable product? What are its features? What are its do's? What are its don'ts? How do you ensure that any wish list that you have doesn't come in the path of while you are shipping that basic feature set for the first time. So this is the minimum viable product. Now, if you see, there are two in this Venn diagram, there are two universes. One is the minimum features that needs to be available, and the second are those features which are viable, and the in the union of this is where your MVP lies. For example, if you have to make an online platform, and the minimum feature that needs to be available is that the user needs to place an order online. And what are the viable features? That the user can see what others are buying. The user can buy using various payment gateways. uh, how do you decide an MVP? Well, we say that the user should be able to place an order online and can pay using an online payment gateway. That could include your payment gateways, that could include your UPIs, that could include your wallets as well. However, the features like what others are buying, what other, you know, as per the user buyer behavior, what are the other features or other items that the user can buy can be taken up as a part of the next release, right? So the first thing we'll look at is why do we need an MVP? Hmm? And how do we decide what features constitute an MVP? And MVP is generally created wherein we know that there exists a business problem and we are solving the same. And once an MVP is decided and made, where do we go from there? Let's look at it. Okay. So it's basically the version of a new product that allows the team to collect maximum amount of validated learning from customers with least effort. Okay, this is a definition given by Eric Rice from Lean Startup. So what are they saying? Is, for example, there exists an offline problem, like people are buying, cannot buy online, so they visit a retail store and they make a purchase. However, because of various reasons, if a user wants to just place a order online, then that is a business need that can be a scope for digitization, right? So this is why do we need a good plan or why do we need a good MVP? Well, it's an allure of a good plan, a solid strategy, and a thorough market research for an established company mapped to a startup. Okay, so you need to have a good plan in place, a project plan. What is your product strategy? And in order to have a good product strategy, how good is your market research, right? This MVP is our first phase out once we define the product market fit. Now, doing without thinking about the processes leads to execution problems, right? So, a lot of times you will see that in companies, people just take up requirements and then they build upon it. However, when we take down all the requirements, create a business requirement document, and baseline it and define a set of features that gets shipped at the end of a particular period, then it results in a more effective and monetized product rather than just building it up, doing without thinking. Now, what is the goal of every customer discovery is basically you will understand what is the customer's problem and see if your solution will prompt him to use or buy the product based on important features alone. As I said, that for example, we do not have a payment gateway integration with our product. However, we still allow a Kirana store user to put up his shop, and the end buyer who can see what items the Kirana shop user is selling and places an order with an offline payment option, then we are uh, encouraging the customer to buy this product from our end. So early adopters love to use MVPs. Tailor the initial product to satisfy their needs. If no one thinks your MVP is interesting or sufficient, iterate or pivot with a qualitative until they say yes, right? For example, you make an app without any images. That may not be useful since the user may want to see the images of the items that they are buying. In such a scenario, MVPs are not liked, and hence we need to iterate and pivot them basis the feedback that we receive and add the images in order to get a yes from our customers. MVPs refine the solution and eliminate the product scope creep. Well, a lot of time, whenever we talk to the stakeholders, there is a high chance of wish list coming in between the main features or our OKRs or objectives and key responsibilities. And hence, a product scope creep occurs. The downside of product scope creep is that it increases the product life cycle, delivery life cycles get impacted, and to a certain extent quality gets impacted because there becomes a need of regression testing as every addition of a requirement may impact a couple of other features or workflows as well, right? So if and only if no customer can be found for the most important features of an MVP, bring customers additional feature request to productive development team. Feature requests to an MVP are an exception and an iteration rather than a rule. This is very, very important. The goal of an MVP is to build the smallest feature set. It's like having only and only your vanilla requirements in place. Example of a minimum viable project or a product is look at the iPhone 2, right? So they just kept improving it, but this was the basic feel that you can make a call, you can type in your messages, you can see your calendars, and then you can have your chat messengers. Similarly, if you see Beam as a technology which is used for online payments, so all it did was capture the number, approve the transaction amount, and make the payment. That's it. Second market again is an example wherein you could only view the excels and then make accordingly the computations. Now the most important question is, how do you decide the features in an MVP? Well, let's look. Less is more. This is very important. So it is very important to differentiate between a need and a want while we are doing the MVP. Collect only the needs and not the wants. Principle 2. The most boring feature is the most important one, right? For example, in an existing Instagram app, the uploading speed, yeah, or let's say if you look over here, it could be the colors, okay, the various fonts and colors that are available, or your home page, or if you see your maps. So the ones which you feel are most boring are the most important one. Example is customer onboarding or a retailer onboarding in case of a retailing app. The third principle while you define a MVP is the path of least resistance. What does that mean? You minimize friction, right? How simple we want the process to be. Do we really need them to fill up everything? In a case like this, if you see, while let's take an example of um, sign up. In case of a sign up, we can give the user an entire form to be filled up, or we can give them an option to connect via Facebook. So, a person who has a Facebook or a Gmail would prefer to just put in his account details and directly log in. This becomes a useful feature in getting the product adopted very well. Principle 4. Think scarcity. Is it demand versus supply? Now, what does you mean by this? Is there is a mailbox app, okay, pushing the user to repeat using the app subconsciously. Now, how do we do that? You create a demand and only then you ensure that the supply is available. Hmm? Principle 5. Focus on closing the loop for the user. This is very important. For example, here there is an example of Uber as an application. Now, always have a start to an end point in a workflow for a user. For example, if you're a user who wants to travel from location A to B using an Uber app, you'll first select the application, you'll open the application, select the location, then get either a vehicle assigned, then the journey starts, and then you pay. This closes the loop. So anything that closes a loop definitely has to be a feature in a minimum viable product. Let's take an example of an online order placement app. So the first thing the user will do is open the app. He will see the items to buy. He will put the items into the cart, and the last thing that he does is that he inputs his time, his address, and then moves on to add and pay. Once he pays, he should be able to see his orders in his app. That means the whole feature for him, a workflow for the user gets completed. Focus on closing the loop for the user. Now, principle 6. This is very important. You iterate and refine with user feedback and usage of data. Now, let us look at the killer matrix that inspire the user to come back. Yeah, an example here is a fab.com. If you look at the matrix for retention of customer usage, improved footfall on the website, let us look at what metrics that needs to be looked at. Principle 7. Be prepared to pivot if it is not working. Now let's take an example. If the product that is built is not working, how quick are you to pivot it out? For example, an application that was that looked like this and was named as the point, which was basically an online website that allowed discount coupons to be used for various multiple usages, which was not working because there was a lot of the data representation on the website wasn't clear, got pivoted out into an application called as a Groupon or a Cobon in Middle East, which looks like this, that talks about today's deal, that gives a buy option, that gives similar option, it gives an example of number of tickets bought. So more data representation in terms of that given feature will make it more viable for the user to start using it. The other example here is audio, right? This they did was they went from it to Twitter and had an interactive community wherein they could see the movie, watch the movie, and have a chat about it. Hmm. So the final thought is you learn from everybody, you follow nobody, observe the pattern, and you work well. Now, here is one of the exercises that we can look at. For example, you're a product manager of a startup team who is building a photo sharing website so that the customer are able to store, share, and organize their photos in a desktop, tablet, or a mobile phone. Objective is to come up with specification of the product which can be deployed within 3 months. Figure out whether the customer will be able to print their pictures onto postcards or calendars. Gather the team around and start working out on a set of features you will need for this photo sharing website. At the same time, come up with 10 measurable metrics which are important to your customer discovery process. A good strategy is to devise categories with different feature sets for the product. Okay, there are a couple of exercises here. And we close it. So the most important thing that one must learn is what is the best set of features that can be come up post the brainstorming that can be utilized to market the product and get the user to say a yes for its successful adoption. Have clear, stringent, and easily measurable matrix to define and drive adoption. I hope this video helps you. If you have any further comments, please leave them in the comment section below and I will take them up later. Thank you so much.